the gay Mecca, the gay Main Street, the 94114, whatever you want to call it. Those of us who live and love in San Francisco know it as the Castro. And our next guest, Erika Atkinson, is the author of a new book, Essays, Ode to the Castro, 100 Variations of Love. Erika, welcome.
Thank you, David.
You know, my first day in San Francisco was in the Castro, and that was 30 years ago this year. And I couldn't believe that a neighborhood like this existed. You've been writing and loving and living in the Castro for longer than that. Does it ever get boring?
Never. Never gets boring. I have felt the heartbeat of the Castro since 1978, easily. I go back and forth. I've sketched it, I've drawn it, I've written the sights and the sounds of it. I've journaled them all through probably for 20 years. Mm-hmm. I've journaled a lot. And so this is really a bit of a composite of many sights and sounds. And what I tried to do was make sure that the heartbeats vary, that there are examples of all of the various kinds of people. Mm-hmm. There are very colorful characters that traverse that street. And most of this was written at the blush window.
Yeah, and I think I recognize the profile of the person sitting there at the blush bar.
That's the one.
That's you.
That's me.
Right.
That's me.
So now you said you've been there since 1978. Were you were there when Harvey Milk was assassinated?
I was, but I happened to be out of the city, out of the country actually, right when that happened.
But you remember that Castro?
I do so remember that Castro, and Sally Gearhart, who was a big friend of Harvey Milk and an activist for the gay rights, of course, was somebody I eventually got to know. She's one of the big reasons I really wanted to write this book. The premise for it is equality, of course. She was such a marvelous activist for gay rights and love and listening and understanding and no prejudice. And she had a great effect on me, even as, well, I'm probably more queer than gay, but she had a profound effect on me. And
right.
Sally was a good friend of Harvey Milk. And I met her later on, and she's very much in this book. It's a bit of a tribute to her.
So remembering that Castro, 78, 88, 98, 2008, now almost 40 years later, 40 years later, 2016, people say, oh, the Castro has lost it. It's not what it used to be. I guess I pose the question. I mean, I came here 30 years ago, and the Castro was dark and depressed, and we were fighting AIDS and homophobia and violence. Do you think the best years of the Castro are over? Or actually, what were the best years of the Castro?
No. I think every era, every decade has a best to it. Things change, and I'm all about change. Yes, I love established fundamental things, but you know, we are growing older. There's another generation coming in. They think differently. Modern technology has changed that lifestyle tremendously. I really don't resent it. Yes, I have my wishes and my standards, and sometimes I feel like an old groaning woman over there, but I love the changes. I really do.
So what are your standards? What are the things that make you groan sitting there at the bar at Blush?
Noisy brats, if I may say that. Too much noise. There's very little room anymore for people to sit down and have a heart-to-heart conversation. And I miss that, I really do. There's music all over the place, but that belongs with the times, you know, it really does. I used to love going to other cafes in the Castro, and I still do. I can bury myself inside noise pretty easily and write and read even, but it's getting more difficult and more challenging when they're...
Where did you come from before 1978?
Central Canada, a little farm in southern Manitoba on the North Dakota border. My father was a wheat farmer from Russia, and we were a Mennonite community, and which I left. I needed to spread my wings. It was a very ironclad community too authoritarian, and what it did was make a contrarian out of me, which I've said in the book. So I left for good reasons. I wasn't born under that rock. Have great respect for those who are there and for my parents, but that was not me.
Right. So in the book, there are a lot of essays, people, icons. I know Donna Sachet, who many people call the First Lady of the Castro, has contributed to the book. Do any particular people stick out in your mind as being the most memorable? And we've talked about Harvey, but I mean, he died the year that you came here. Over the last 30, 40 years, who sticks out as being truly a representative of the Castro?
Well, Donna would be one because I know her very well. I have tremendous admiration and actually envy for Armistead Maupin. I would just love to meet him someday. I have a dream about that, I will. But he stands out. Teresa Sparks is another one.
Head of the Human Rights Commission.
Exactly, yeah.
Great transgender activist.
Very, and several others whom I've been privileged to meet with. I can't remember their names right now, but they've all had a very big impact. They've helped create me into being who I am. They're the Alfred Lord Tennyson, paraphrasing a quote that said, I'm a part of all whom I've met. I can't remember the rest of it, forgive me. But that's how I feel. I'm a composite of all of these people I've met.
And so you think, when you read your essays, you get that sense that you feel the Castro is a composite.
Yes.
I mean, people have written over the years that the Castro, and Armistead actually wrote about this in Tales of the City, that it's kind of a Midwestern town.
It is.
Do you think that it's lost any of that?
No. No, it hasn't. And it's because I think people from all over the world bring their own background and flavor to the Castro, if they feel comfortable enough to be wandering around in there. And I do know some people who have wondered where they were. They got lost. I said, well, then fine, you know. There's another part of the city.
So you do run across to some people who get off the F market and they're like, well, we really aren't in Kansas anymore.
Yes, exactly, precisely. Yes, that's it. But yes, it brings, there are many Europeans, as you know. I've got a raft of them here right now, and 11 o'clock at night is the best time to go out to really see the colors.
So if you still want to see the Castro, you go out after dark. You see the new rainbow escalators, the rainbow crosswalks. But the Castro that you love and talk about in Ode to the Castro, you think it's still there?
It reverberates with me. Yes, it resonates with me. Yep.
Well, thanks for being on the show. I look forward to finishing Ode to the Castro, 101 Variations of Love.
Absolutely.
Thanks to Erika for being with us. And thanks for watching 10%. I'm David Perry. We'll see you here on Comcast Local 104 next week. Good night.